Well, hello everybody. Welcome to P.B.M. Vending. As you know, we talk about different things on these videos, things that our ministry are involved in, and one of them is real estate. So it's story time. I told you about the house that we bought, and there's a video called God's House. And in that video, we go through and explain all the things that happen. What I didn't tell you in that video is after the house closed and we left, I told my realtor, I said, I have something I need to tell you. And he said, okay. I said, this time next year, you will find an unbelievable deal on a duplex. And that deal you're going to want to buy, but that deal is for me. And it will be in one of two areas, and I told him the areas. I said, so when that happens, give me a call and we'll buy the duplex. And he said, okay. He's Christian also. So the year passes, the time gets very, very close, and I get a text out of the blue. And he says, hey, I found a duplex in this certain area. And I had been pricing them in that area. They ran, for a duplex, they ran about $250,000 in this area. And he said, it's only $89,000, and I've never seen one in that area, even a dump that was that. And I said, well, let's go take a look. So we went and looked, and they were nice. It was a nice duplex in a nice area, and they had just rented one side that would pay for the mortgage. The other side needed a paint job, and it was fine. The outside was brick. The garage was separate and brick, and it was a beautiful duplex. But for whatever reason, the sellers wanted it sold. So in my mind, it was right on time, it was right on cue, and it was right on price. And he caught it, and he called me. So I didn't even think about it. I said, okay, let's write up an offer. So we wrote up the offer. And one of the things that I wrote in there was it was contingent on me getting an FHA loan. Now, 3.5% of $90,000 was going to be roughly $3,000, plus closing costs, plus, $4,000 or $5,000 total. So, also, the year that I closed on that, I went and talked to another buddy of mine who was a president of a local bank. And he's Christian also, and I told him what was going to happen, and I said, I'm talking to you because I want to know what your bank is loaning money on. What are you guys looking for? And he said, we're looking for duplexes, and he mentioned two areas, and this was one of them. The same two areas, by the way. So we wrote up the offer. I called my buddy up, and he very diplomatically did not deal with me. He palmed me off on his loan officer, which was fine. I get it. So I'm talking to the loan officer, and he asked me some questions, and he said, well, first off, you're going to need 20% down. And I said, well, I'm planning on living in it, and an FHA loan is only 3.5%. He said, yeah, but they don't look at it like that. They look at it like strictly income, and you're still going to need 20% down. Well, 20% of $90,000 is $18,000. Plus, we're looking at $20,000+ just to get into this thing. I don't have $20,000. So after about 3 or 4 questions, he comes right out and asks me, he says, so how much cash do you have? And I said, I got about 12 or 13,000. He said, do you want my opinion? I said, well, sure. He said, are you sure? I said, absolutely. He said, you got no business in buying a duplex. None at all. He said, it's too bad you're not looking at a single family home. He said, because that way I could sell that and just service it and we'd be fine. And I was crushed. Now, in the old days, when I was in the business, I did not go to bankers. I did most of the dealing, negotiating, and financing on my own just for this reason. Bankers are too conservative. They don't understand investors. And they only loan the money when you don't need the money. So I avoided them. But this time around, being older and hopefully a little wiser, I made some conscious decisions. And one of them was, I'm going to pay attention to the professionals. So if my banker says I have no business in a duplex, I'm out. If my realtor makes recommendations to me on an offer, I'm about that. I was going to listen to the professionals, and I was going to let God deal with this in His terms. So when my banker said, and this was, this is the best treatment I'm going to get from many bankers, okay? And he said, and as soon as I did the math in my head, I realized I considered going to another bank to see if I could get this drawn up as an owner-occupied. But I decided this is probably the best treatment I'm going to get from a banker. So when he said, you got no business on a duplex, I was done. I was out. My realtor buddy called me or texted me the next day. He said, I sent them notification that you couldn't get financing. They gave me their security deposit back and it sold within an hour. It's done, it's a guaranteed buy. And I was like, well, of course it did. It was a great deal. And I thought about that whole deal for a while, and I couldn't understand, well, God, why would you tell me all about that deal and be right on every little thing except it's not for me? And the only answer that I could come up with was that it was to test my realtor buddy, to see if he had a really great deal in front of him. By the way, I guess I didn't mention my realtor's loaded. He could very easily have bought that and not even thought about it. But he didn't. He brought it to me. He was obedient. And I think that's what it, and also I think it was for me to be tested and see if I would resort to my old habits, and I did not. So I think I passed. I think my realtor buddy passed. And as much as my banker hurt my feelings, I think he passed also. And I gained a little respect for him. And if the time ever comes around again, I'm going to take my business to that bank. Simply because he was honest with me. He didn't try to sugarcoat it or mislead me. He was honest, gave me his true opinion, and saved me. Because shortly after that, by the way, that happened in September. Can you imagine what would have happened if I had bought that duplex, rented had both sides rented, and then they stopped paying rent at this COVID thing? Now, the guy in the house has done that, and he hasn't paid rent since February. Can you imagine if I had 2 more rentals and they weren't paying since February either? Oh my goodness. that could have been very ugly for a very long time. So anyway, I just wanted to relay the story of how my banker hurt my feelings, but he's probably going to get any business that I have if it ever happens again. So I guess the takeaway from this video is, just because something happens like it, you know it's supposed to, the outcome isn't necessarily what you think it is. Yeah, my banker hurt my feelings, and it was a good thing. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about. You guys have a great week, and happy vending!